Okay, so today we are going to make a very basic bolognese. I've got my ingredients here, some of them anyway. There we go. This is based on the healthy canning recipe for meat sauce. So it should make about 3 litres all told, although I have made a couple of adjustments. So I apologise for any crinkling you can hear in the background. I twisted my ankle yesterday, so I'm wearing a giant Velcro boot to bimble about the kitchen with. So I'll just move these off to one side. So, now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to brown my meat. Wahey. Now I've got a cast iron pan that's been on the heat, so I'm going to carefully remove that there. There we go. A couple of sprays of oil. So we're keeping added fat to a minimum, but we will drain it afterwards anyway. So I'm going to empty that in there. There we go. So this is all meat from a local beef farm. Generally I'd like to use a mix of beef and pork mince. I think it makes a better mix for a bolognese. So I'm going to brown this off on the stove now. I didn't have any pork mince left, so we're going just with straight beef today. And we're not trying to fully cook it, we're just trying to brown it a little bit. So I get my beef from a local beef farm, and one of the reasons is that they do not wince when I try and buy upwards of 25 kilograms of beef mince at a time. I also managed to get a few bones back from them as well, so that I can make some beef stock, which is a big favourite here. Let's try bolognese. See, it worked. Magic. So the reason that we brown the meat in the first place is to avoid dense spots, because if it's all browned off on the outside, it's not going to stick together, which means it's not going to provide us with dense spots in our finished project. Let's see, because the cast iron's quite heavy, it's a little trickier doing this one, and it's hot too. I like this pan. This is one of my favourite pans to cook bolognese and things in. I like doing it in cast iron, but I will freely admit I am lazy, so I love that the enamel coating on this one allows me to put it in the dishwasher. Obviously this is slightly smaller than the one used for the chili, but then we're going to end up with only 3 litres of this mix, and I have reduced some things. So the recipe called for 2.5 kilograms of mince, and I've put in 3 packets of 600 grams. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add our veg in. So I have about 250 grams of onion. Oh, said onion very loudly. Onion. I've got about 150 grams of peppers, which actually equated to 1 large pepper. So I've used half red and half green because I like a bit of variation. I'm going to give that a stir in there. So here I've got 2.5 litres of chopped tomato. You can use home canned, but I found a fantastic deal on some large catering tubs. Tins, I suppose. Give that a quick mix in. Now this does call for tomato paste as well. I'm actually not going to put that in because I think it's going to be plenty thick enough. I'm actually tempted to add another tin of tomatoes. But we'll stick with that for the time being. So now I'm going to add my seasonings. So for my seasonings, I have 2 tablespoons of dried parsley. So that's oregano and parsley. Mix those in. I've got a total of 1 teaspoon of spices. In here I've got a mixture of cayenne and paprika. There's a little bit of kick in Bolognese. It's very, very good, especially when it's been pressure canned, because that can dull the taste a little. So I'm also going to add a little bit of wine. Now this is not called for in the recipe. I can do this because what I'm doing is I am diluting the recipe and making it more acidic. What I couldn't do is make it more dense or less acidic. So as long as I'm making it thinner and more acidic, and it is a thing that can be used in recipes, then it is okay. I'm also going to throw in about 2 tablespoons of lime juice, just to give it, again, a nice little bit of freshness. This is not for safety, just for taste, so you can leave that out if you want. I'm also putting in a couple of teaspoons of salt, a couple of teaspoons of salt and a teaspoon of ground black pepper. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this back on the heat. I'm going to let it simmer for a couple of minutes while I heat my jars. So this recipe says that it will make about 3 litres the way they've done it. I've made some slight adjustments, and obviously I'm using the Weck jars, which are slightly different. So I've got 6 just to be on the safe side. And we'll see how much we get, shall we? So normally I would add a little bit of sriracha into this. I've actually run out at the moment, so that's why I've put the cayenne in instead. Normally I wouldn't do that. So here we go. My canner is just heating up. I'm going to get this in the jars and get it processed. Again, I find 2 full scoops is usually about right. It might need a little checking at the end there. Just spilt some on the table. As normal, making a terrible mess while I'm ladling it in. Now, an easy cheat I've found, which is probably frowned upon, but the Weck jars can more than handle it, is if I suddenly find I need a couple of extra jars, I just give them a quick run under the hot tap, just to start warming the glass a little bit, which means it won't shock. There we go. I'm going to top them up a little bit, but I don't want them to come out too full, because as it's tomato based sauce it can get quite splattery. Rushing ever so slightly today because my foot's causing some problems. Take a little bit out of that one now. And a bit out of this one. Obviously they are going to cook down as well. There we go. So obviously it doesn't look like the perfect spag bowl at the moment, but by the time it's been through the canner. So I'm going to get my lids, my ring on like that. And again, I used 2 clips. Oh, I haven't, A, haven't debubbled, and B, I have not wiped my rims. Now, because this is a meat sauce, it does actually make quite a bit of difference wiping it down with vinegar as opposed to just some water, because it helps cut through any fat that is in there. So you don't need to worry too much about debubbling, it's pretty evenly done anyway. God, this smells delicious. Measure the head space. There we go. A little bit of vinegar. Now I have been quite messy with this lot actually. Not normally that bad. But I'm going to forgive myself this once. Make sure there's nothing on there that's going to foul that seal. Now, meat sauces, when you're canning, do like to make the seals bulge. So we want to make sure they've got plenty of room and we've given them every opportunity we've got to help them seal. So I get my lid on, use my clips again, start from the inside at the top. I don't know how well you can see from that angle, and just use my thumb then to push it down and round. And I then hold the other side in place just to make sure it doesn't shift around. And I'm going to get that straight into my canner. So that's the first 5. I'm going to add my rack now. The second layer. Now I'm going to take just a second now to talk about clips. I know some people say to put 3 clips on. I've found that when I've used 3 clips on that advice, I've actually had a lot of problems with siphoning. I find 2 clips evenly placed around the rim far more effective, and I've had much less problems doing that. Okay, I'm going to get the lid on my canner and start prepping. So as you can now see, we've reached a full head of steam venting from the air pipe. I'm going to start my 10-minute timer. I will see you later. So my 10-minute timer has just gone off. I'm going to plop my weight on and start building pressure. So as you can see, we've just come up to pressure. I am just lowering the heat. Just enough to keep the weight rocking because we don't want it raging too fast. So my timer has just gone off, signalling the end of my processing time. So I'm going to now turn the heat off completely and leave it for about 15-20 minutes for the pressure to drop. Plop. There we go. So the pressure lock has now dropped. I'm going to take the weight off and I'm going to give it another 10 minutes with the lid on. I'll see you then. So we've waited 10 minutes. I'm going to remove the lid. I'm going to lift the far end away from me to release any steam out towards the back and away from my face. I'm now going to leave them an added 10 minutes in the canner with the lid off before I come and take them out. Okay, so that's my final weight over and it's time to get them out of the canner. Now, of course, I can't actually fit the camera over the canner because there's not quite enough headspace. I've used my 23 because I've stacked them. Here's one of my jars. It's bubbling nicely, although I don't think you can quite see it from there. So I'm going to put it off to one side on a towel and let it continue sealing. So the top row are all bubbling nicely. If you can see that there. Probably not. How about there? Which is a really, really good sign. And that one. Now, I said on the way into the canner, I do like to bulge a little bit with these ones. You can see this one has bulged a tiny bit. I don't think that's a problem. It's still bubbling away. So I'm pretty sure that one is going to seal anyway. Keeping the heat level and the clips level really help to minimise that. If you run the canner a bit too hot, and it does exacerbate the seal bulging in your jars. Again, another reason why I love these Weck tongs. I can just lift that straight out. So it looks like we've got a little bit of a blown seal in here. There's been a little bit of siphoning, but they don't look too bad. So I'll have a look and see where yeah, I've got one that's quite obviously unsealed already. the clips come loose, so I must not have put it on properly. Okay, so I'm just going to pull the troublemaker out now. So it's a little bit difficult to get a good grip with the tongs on the first jar. A little trick is still because this one is misbehaving. There we go. Now you can see here this clip has completely come off. Now that's entertainingly not happened to me before, and that must have been down to me not putting the clip on properly when I was doing it. There we go, see? Oh, on the upside, there's dinner. So this is the one that's next to it, which is not bubbling, which indicates that that's probably a failed seal as well. I'd guess due to the amount of food residue it was exposed to around there, if you can see. I'm going to put that one with the others anyway, and we will see, because there is a possibility I'm wrong and that it will seal quite nicely regardless. So here's another one from the bottom row, absolutely fine. Don't know if you can see it bubbling away there. There's a little bit of water on top of these ones. The processing. But I do tend to leave that water on there. I don't like to tip the jars at this stage, just in case something interferes. You can see if there's a tiny bit of bulging there again, but I don't expect that to cause a problem. Again, that one's bubbling away here. And again, bubbling away really nicely. You can see there's a bit of water sloshing around on top of the jar. Again, I'm just going to leave that there and let it dry or evaporate off as is, because I don't want to disturb anything in the jar at the moment. So I've got a little bit of residue in the canner, which is to be expected when you've had one blow, especially quite so violently. Again, I've not actually had that happen to me before, so I'm pretty sure I must have not put that clip on properly for it to have come all the way off like that. And it is only that one as well. The rest are all okay, apart from that one that was next to it. But it might come good yet. So we shall see. See you tomorrow. So yet again, another day has passed and it's time to check our seals. So let's get started. Now this one, looking at it, it's got a nice downward pointing tip. I can see no air bubbles in the rim. And I'm going to guess, yeah, that one is nicely sealed. So, one. Now we put 9 jars into the canner, and if you remember, which I'm sure you do, it happened more recently for you guys, one of them did blow a seal and ended up venting into the canner. Okay, that one's nice and sealed as well, which made a little bit of a mess, but did mean that I got some tasty dinner after all that work last night. So there we go, these are all looking good, so that's 4 all. Perfect. So you can see when I'm taking the clips off, I do rest my thumb on top, just like that, and then I flick that bit up and off. This prevents them from springing off all over the place if you're not careful. Yeah, that one too. They're a little bit greasy, obviously, because we had one blow, and there is some residue on the rest of the jars, but not too bad. So this is the one that had a little bit of a bulgy seal, as you can see. Noticed that yesterday. It's sealed nice and tightly, so I'm not worried about that one. However, what I will do is I will put it at the front of the shelf, just to make sure that gets used first. more for my own satisfaction than anything else. Right, so this is the one that was next to the one that blew. As you can see, that's quite dirty. I have a suspicion that this one may have been fouled as well. So if you can see, as I've just removed that clip, I don't know if you can see it or not, you can see a little change in the bubbling on the seal there. Can you see that? Just moving up and around. And actually, that has come up on that side. So if I take that off all the way, you can see what has happened. There's quite a bit of residue from the other jar that's fouled that one. As you can see, there's a lot around the rim as well. So I'm not surprised about that one at all, but it is only that one that the other one has affected. So out of my 9 jars, we have 7 that have sealed beautifully and will go in the cupboard. And I've had 2 fantastic meals out of it, so I can't say I'm all that sad. So these will go away for storage. I'm going to give them a good wipe now. I've got a hot soapy cloth. You want the water nice and hot when you're dealing with Bolognese things. Give that seal a good scrub to make sure there's no food residue left around that slightly bulgy one. And a good wipe all around these, being nice and thorough because they are, as I said, a little bit dirty from the blown jar. So I'm using a fresh cloth. There we go, nice hot, slightly soapy water. Beautiful.